Hi, peeps. Welcome back. Okay, today I hope that you guys have been listening to the different types of moms that I've been talking about. There was the controlling mom, the overly enmeshed mom, the gosh, I can't even remember all of them now, but a lot of different personalities and traits of mothers, the narcissistic mom, all of those kind of things. And what happens when we grow up with those kind of mothers for us? Like, what kind of patterns and habits do we fall into from learning from these mothers? Even when we know we don't want to be like them, we oftentimes pick up on those bad habits and patterns. So, how do we break those old beliefs and the toxic patterns and things? What do we do with all? So, we've learned in the last few episodes, like, here's how they are. And, what do we do with this? And so now we're like, well, how do we break this? How do we get rid of these kind of patterns? And I'm still working through the book, Dr. Susan Forward, Mothers Who Can't Love. It's such a good book, you guys, if you get a chance to purchase that. It's an older book, but it really rings true to a lot of things that are going on now and things that I've walked through, things that I have coached other women through. The examples that she uses in this book they're timeless. I'm reading this stuff and I'm like, yes, this is exactly what's happening. And this is why we react the way we do. And yes, this is how that mom is. And so she talks about breaking those kind of habits off. And it's so hard when you're used to being kind of in this abusive, I won't even say kind of, when you're in this abusive situation with your mother where she just does these things and our reaction to it sometimes is fear based because we know if we rock the boat, she's going to explode. Like she's not going to like us fighting back. And so we tend to become quieter, meeker, or we end up not having any kind of relationship at all. And so I just wanted to help you become aware of what these habits and patterns have done to you as an adult and how it could be affecting your family in just these subtle ways that you're not even aware of. Maybe you are aware of them and you just don't even know where to start. I want you to be able to break those old patterns and thought beliefs off so that in your adult years, you can enjoy your life without this baggage hanging around you. So, how can we become healthier versions of ourselves when we grow up with toxic mothers? Yikes. So, that answer is not easy, but it is doable. And so, in the second half of Susan's book, she first describes the kinds of moms, and that's kind of what I went through in the past episodes, is like, let's identify what kind of mom you have first. It's funny, we're almost at 130 people in our UnMothered Facebook, our private group. And again, every single time I ask these questions, like, what kind of relationship do you have with your mother? Do you have contact with your mom? Almost always they tell me my mom is a narcissist. And, I think it's more than that. Like, yes, definitely. I know my mom had narcissistic qualities, but I don't think it's just narcissism. I think there was just a lot of different things. So Susan really breaks these different personalities down. And now we have to figure out like, how do we break off from that so that we don't become those kind of things? And so she shows us in the second half of her book, she writes a chapter that she calls The Beginnings of Truth, to start revealing the lies that have been spoken over us since childhood. Oof. Yeah, that's what happens is like we have had these words and these actions spoken over us since we were little tiny kids. Like, I think I may have said this before, is when I was as young as 4 years old, I watched my mom fighting with my dad. We were in the kitchen. I was sitting at the kitchen table, and my mom came at my dad with a knife in her hand and missed my dad's heart and hit his arm. I mean, and then she was like, it was no big, like, oh, sorry, kind of thing. And those things stick with you as a kid. So imagine, so there's that. And then there's the daily things that your mom is saying over you as a child, which are not affirming. They're not beautiful words, they are harmful words. And so now you're an adult and you have to like break off these belief patterns and these habits and these things that have been so toxic for you. So, how many times have we reacted to something spoken to us, harsh words, over ourselves out of habit? And we ask ourselves, like, where did that comment come from? Sometimes we do it automatically. We don't even know that it's not healthy or it's not loving. It's what we've heard for so long that now we're saying it to ourselves. We don't stand up for ourselves many times. I know in the beginning, like, I didn't stand up for myself. I was out to like help everybody else. Like, especially in relationships with men, I'll say boys. I didn't date a lot of men. They were all boys. I just wanted to please them. And it didn't matter what they said to me, which I can look back at some relationships where I'm like, how in the world did I let that person talk to me like that? And I did, because I had no self-esteem and I had heard it for so long. It was like, might as well just take a hammer and beat myself with it, because like everyone else is, I might as well do it to myself. So we don't stand up for ourselves. And we say yes to everything only to regret saying that. But then we don't change our mind and say no. We keep doing the things we hate, but we just don't know how to change. And that, my friend, is trauma at its finest. When we had moms that are so critical and conditional, there were so many bad habits. It's hard to even start with anyone. We have been programmed to go along to get along, or else. In my case, it was or else. Like, it was fear-based to the point where I was programmed, which is why when I dated these boys that I allowed this abuse to happen. I can't even tell you how many boys, I'm not going to say men, they weren't men. We were young and they were not adults. They cheated on me. They pushed me. They talked mean to me, and I allowed that. Why? Because that's what had been taught to me. Also, that's what I had witnessed from my mother, the way she was treated by other men in her life. Where we should have been nurtured, sometimes we've been tortured. Let that sit with you for a minute. We didn't get the moms that were saying, you can be anything you want. You're amazing. You're the most beautiful person. So glad I gave birth to you. We were tortured. We were told, well, some of us were physically tortured, and some of us were emotionally tortured and verbally tortured. We were told, I should have never had you. You're such a menace to me. You're in my way. You're a horrible child. You don't do what I say. Just these words that can really cut deep. People think like, oh, it's just words. When it's being told to a child for years and years, you're not good enough. Don't ever expect more from anybody. This is all we get out of life. Life is hard and it's never going to give you what you want. You grow up kind of like in the back of your mind, even though you know this can't be true, but it sticks to your heart. And then you start thinking, maybe it is true. Maybe I shouldn't ask for more. Maybe I shouldn't fly to the sky with my dreams. When I think of how I speak to my daughters and now my granddaughter, the way I talk to them and the tone of my voice, it gives them a nurturing safety. And they will never hear the words that damage their self-esteem. When a mom is focused on her own needs, she'll never think of your needs first. She's always doing damage control for herself. And if you get in the way, she's going to throw you under the bus to save herself. My mom would do that often. Everything was my fault. Well, if you hadn't done this, then this other thing wouldn't have happened. I'm like, really? I'm so powerful. I caused all of this? I don't think so. So how do we grow up unwinding these silent messages that are in our head and in our heart that we hate, but we continue to do to ourselves? It's only going to hurt us and our relationship with others, so we need to break them off for good. So a couple of things to think about. When you hear yourself say, you don't deserve better, when these are your thought processes, right? You don't deserve better. I'm never going to be good enough. Everybody else is smarter than me. That is the voice of your mother, not yours. Let me say that again. That's the voice of your mother, not yours. Your mom has told you for years and years, you're never going to amount to anything. I remember my mom saying, like, you have champagne taste on a beer budget. Who do you think you are? Little princess, you're nothing. You're never going to get there. And it took me years to unwind that and be like, oh yeah, I will get there. I got there. I'm good. Like, don't tell me I can't dream big. Don't tell me that. I'm not going to receive that anymore. You're going to have to learn to unwind those beliefs and that inner voice that is so cruel to you. Honestly, you guys, so many times I hear women speaking not life over themselves, but literally death over themselves, saying, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I haven't measured up, like just these horrible things. And I'm like, who told you that? That is such a lie. You are so worthy. You are so loved. God has a purpose for you and a plan for you. And it doesn't mean you're not going to go through hard things, but that also doesn't mean that you're not worthy of good things. I want you to remember this. You were never responsible for your mom's happiness. And she isn't responsible for yours. She can't control anything unless you allow it. Just remember that. She thinks that she can. But when you become an adult, and this is a thing, when we're little, we don't have control over just walking away when things get hard. We don't want to hear those things that our mom tells us. But we have to listen to it because we're little and we have to live in that household. But remember this, when you become old enough to move out on your own, she has no power over you anymore. She may have controlled the situation when you were little. She cannot control you unless you allow it. So you don't need to make excuses. Well, she's my mom. Well, God says to honor your mother and father. This was a big one in Texas. There was young girls coming up to me, well, in their 30s, coming up and saying, I struggle with that verse. And I said, that verse has so much more meat to it than just that one verse. I don't like when people take one verse out of the Bible and make that God. Like, above all else, you have to believe this one verse. I'm like, that is honoring. You honor your mother and father when your mother and father are honoring to you. When they're dishonoring you, when they're abusing you, that is not honoring. So you need to pick another verse or read more of the book. Don't just read one verse out of that whole chapter. There's a lot more to that than where that comes from. So she does not control you, and you do not need to honor something that is dishonorable. As Susan Forward says in her book, your real job as a person is to individuate and build a life of your own, and your mother's role is to help you. And we know that our moms probably won't be able to help us, but we can start splitting the soul ties by helping ourselves. This was something that was taught to me by my coach, Carrie Garcia, when she told me one time, you still have soul ties to your mom. And my mom had passed. And I was still looking to my mother for affirmation, hoping she was proud of me. I needed to split that soul tie. I just, I needed to be proud of myself. I needed to be proud of where God brought me. Like, I don't need her affirmation or her neglect anymore. It's my life. My happiness doesn't depend on her approval, and your mom's the same. Your happiness doesn't depend on her approval, whether she likes the way you're living your life or not. If you decide to do something healthier than what you've been brought up in, she's going to have to be okay with that. So part of what Dr. Susan Forward does in her book, and the same that I do in my coaching, is journaling. And I think it's so great. Hers is more specific to each particular subject. So she in her book, it's like she replaces the lies that your mom told you versus the truth of who you are. So instead of saying, I'm selfish, you can replace it with the truth of, I'm generous, giving, and considerate of others. She's got a ton more examples in her book. It's a great place to start seeing your truth and the damage that has taken place over the years by your mom's lies. And so journaling that out, like, what's the lie? Replace it with words of what's the truth. We need to reprogram your brain to hear those words of affirmations, because we haven't heard those our whole life, and start believing those truths instead of putting so much emphasis on believing the lies that your mom has told. Your mom is not well. That's the bottom line. Your mom is not in a good mental place, maybe not in a good physical place. She's not well. And so you don't need to take the things that she has hooked onto her train, because she's come from abuse. And so she's saying those things to herself, and then she's passing those on to you. Don't let that happen. And what we really don't want to happen is have you start doing the same thing to your daughters or your sons. We need to end that here. So we're going to break off those old habits, and you're going to start replacing those with really good word affirmations, believing those things, sitting quietly with God and asking him, who do you say I am? Who am I in your eyes? Journal that down. He's going to give you some answers. So I hope that this episode helped you. I know that that's a hard subject, and it's always a tender place when we have to start really looking at ourselves in a better place instead of just beating ourselves up all the time because of what has been told to us half our life, maybe all our life. I want you guys to walk away knowing that you are so loved by a God that has purposely sent you to this earth to do good things. And you need to find out what that is. And that journey is going to be long. The healing journey takes forever. It doesn't end in a day. It doesn't end in 10 years. It's forever. Until you get to heaven, you'll be completely healed. But on this side of heaven, we're on a healing journey. So just continue to stay open and learn more, and be open to hearing good things and improving on yourself. Don't stop your journey because of what someone in the past has told you. This is as far as you can go. Don't wish for anything else. Don't believe that. Know that the gates are open and you get to walk the path that God wants you on. He's just waiting. He's holding his hand out and saying, I'm right here, but I'm not going to force you to do this. You have to walk to me. When he says knock and the door will be open, that door's not going to open until you knock and open that door. And then he'll have so much more for you. So I hope this helped you guys. Until next time, I will see you later, peeps.